Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today's video, the purpose of it is to summarize the C102 course, the curriculum course that you're involved in with the ITEP program. We started a good number of weeks ago, and your first assignment, Learning Task 1, was to prepare a professional development PowerPoint that could be shared in your schools or in your school and community. So I hope you've been able to share those. Many of you looked at just a portion or looked at whether or not the school was add and stir. And because most of you couldn't have visited the Tarbiyah project, Dawud Tawhidi's, or Elmo Harder's program, you only had, a little bit from a lecture. That I think it's ideal for your school and community to be able to look at the variations between different schools and then think about how your own school's been developed. Many of the schools are not that old. Some of them might be 10 or 20 years old, and they've had a lot more time to think about how Islam is, carried out. But there's a lot of room, probably as you all feel, for improvement. And we've talked about that on the discussion board. So the Learning Task 1 was that PowerPoint. And then, of course, you've had the discussion board, which is something that's required. It's about a third of your grade. And so if you're not active on discussion board, be sure to go back to the discussion board and fill in the weeks that you might have missed so that you'll be able to receive your points for that as well. Finally, then, the third piece, after Learning Task 1 and the discussion board, then the third piece is the Learning Task 2, which is the thematic or the integrated unit. And so let us speak a bit about that. The idea is that you take a central theme, that it's an Islamic topic, and that you integrate, connect, interconnect, that you build around this topic, this important Islamic, perspective. So that the children do literature, reading, writing, Arabic, Islamic studies, Quran, art, maybe even some role playing, that a variety of connections are made for them so that they value this in a deeper and more, more long-lasting, let's say, way of thinking about a particular topic. And as this becomes a habit, then this makes the child become more well-rounded in terms of their Islamic worldview. And that's important. So the unit, when you started, you did a mind map. And the mind map was there to help you develop your thinking. But if your mind map became very extensive, and sometimes we call them messy, it didn't mean negatively messy, it meant that you made many connections. Then you would say to yourself, which part of this will I actually be able to teach? And that's a good thing. And you don't have to teach all of it. You carve out a portion that you think is, now that you've thought of all those things, which portion do you think is the richest and most meaningful and would bring about the most, valuable learning? And so as you do that, you might connect math, science, social studies, language arts, reading, because you'd read something, you'd write something, and your topic would be your Islamic theme. So I know we struggled a bit. Plants, we kind of pushed towards the idea that plants are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gift of not only beautiful plants, trees give us shade, we eat many of our plants, we don't eat all of them. So what is it? And we take wood from a tree, there are many blessings in a plant. And so how do we connect that? So I mentioned or suggested that it would be, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a gift of plants, that these are blessings. And then to look at it, from not only science, but to look at it historically, look at what's in Quran, what tree is mentioned in Quran, what plants are mentioned in Quran, where does the tune come from, where, just move, in knowledge in ways that make powerful connections. that help students to recall how this is connected to Islamic topics. Another one was biology and embryology and the gift of birth, the gift of our children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned for each soul, and yet for 9 months they develop, from an embryo. And we have ayahs from the Quran. And so we can take, an Islamic perspective and read the science book and learn the vocabulary and learn, what is it in Quran, which surah, which ayah, and take it further and make these connections. Now, I also like to think about things such as, the water. I always come back to water. I don't know why, but, making wudu, having children maybe to count, measure with their iPad or their smartphone, how long does it take to turn on faucets, and how long does it take to draw a gallon of water, and then to calculate how many gallons of water they use if they make a wudu, running the water for that many minutes that it takes them, and to to connect some math there, and even to perhaps make a chart or take some statistics and do some averages so that the students can realize the value of water and how important it is, and how in the Prophet's time we learned we could make tayammum from making a wudu without water. So water has not always been plentiful, and we know that we need to watch the water, and so that's an environmental piece, the connection that everyone can work on and be a contributor to conservation. So I think that's a rich and valuable perspective to have for the students in terms of their their unit.